Sometimes the saddest stories don't happen in the spotlight. They unfold quietly, painfully, behind the rhythm and soul of the music we love. Renée Diggs was a name that echoed through the 80s R&B scene, a voice that brought strength, passion, and groove to millions. As the lead singer of Starpoint, she gave us timeless hits like Object of My Desire and What You've Been Missing. But while her music moved us, real life handed her a script filled with struggle, love, and loss that she could never rehearse for. And just when the beat seemed to fade, her partner, her anchor, faced a cruel twist of fate all his own. What really happened to Renée Diggs and Ernesto Phillips? And how did their once vibrant lives end in such quiet heartbreak? Let's take a journey through a love story built on resilience, tragedy, and a legacy that deserves to be remembered. The rise of Renée Diggs, from Starpoint to stardom. Long before Renée Diggs was belting out hits that defined a decade, she was a young woman with a voice that could move mountains and a dream that refused to stay small. Born in the United States in the 1950s, Renée grew up in a world where music was more than entertainment. It was a lifeline. Details about her early life are scarce, but those who knew her spoke of a natural talent, a spark that shone through even in her youth. She wasn't just another singer. She had a raw, soulful power that could make you feel every note she sang. By the late 1970s, that talent led her to Starpoint, a band founded by Ernesto Phillips and his brothers in Maryland. It was a family affair rooted in funk and R&B, but when Renée stepped in as lead vocalist, she turned it into something electric. Starpoint wasn't an overnight success. They hit the scene in 1980 with their debut single, I Just Want to Dance With You, a funky, upbeat track that showcased Renée's vocal range and the band's tight chemistry. It was a modest hit, but it put them on the map. For the next few years, they were grinders, dropping albums like Keep On It and Wanting You while building a loyal fan base. Renée's voice, smooth yet commanding, tender yet fierce, was the heart of their sound. She didn't just sing, she told stories, weaving emotion into every lyric. The band's relentless work ethic paid off in 1985 when Object of My Desire hit the airwaves. That song was a game changer, fam. Blending R&B with a slick pop edge, it climbed the Billboard charts, peaking in the top 25 and earning Starpoint national and international acclaim. Suddenly, they were sharing stages with legends like Morris Day, Luther Vandross, Isley Jasper Isley, and Atlantic Starr, touring the world and bringing their high-energy performances to packed venues. Renée was the undeniable star of those shows. Her stage presence was magnetic. Whether she was hitting the high notes in What You've Been Missing or grooving to the infectious beat of Restless, she owned every moment. Behind the scenes, she was just as vital, collaborating with Ernesto and the band on songwriting and arrangements. Albums like Restless and Sensational kept the hits coming, with tracks like He Wants My Body and Till the End of Time showcasing her versatility. Starpoint wasn't just a band, they were a movement, and Renée was their voice. But as their fame grew, so did her personal connection with Ernesto Phillips, the band's lead guitarist and creative force. Their bond, born in the studio and strengthened on the road, was laying the foundation for a love story that would define her life. Stardom and the man who held her heart. To the outside world, Renée Diggs was the epitome of soul, a woman whose voice could lift you up and whose energy lit up every room she walked into. Throughout the 80s, she became a staple in R&B households, delivering performances that were raw, real, and unforgettable. But behind the mic, she was navigating the grind of touring, the pressures of fame, and the weight of an industry that demanded everything. In the midst of it all, one man stood by her side, Ernesto Phillips. Their love story didn't start with flashing lights or grand gestures. It grew naturally within the tight-knit world of Starpoint. Ernesto, the lead guitarist and a founding member, was already a key part of her musical life. Over time, that bond deepened into something more, a partnership that went beyond the stage. They were soulmates, united by music and an unshakable connection. Even after Starpoint disbanded in 1990, they kept creating together, pouring their hearts into Renée's solo album Oasis, which first dropped in Europe. Their love was quiet but powerful, built on late-night studio sessions, shared dreams, and a mutual passion that nothing could break. But as their story unfolded, challenges were looming that would test them in ways they never saw coming. The diagnosis that changed everything. In the midst of Starpoint's meteoric rise, While they were crisscrossing the country on tour, lighting up stages with their infectious energy, Renée received news that turned her world upside down. It was the late 1980s, and during a routine checkup, prompted by persistent fatigue and strange symptoms she couldn't shake, doctors delivered a devastating diagnosis: multiple sclerosis, MS. This autoimmune disease attacks the central nervous system, disrupting the body's ability to communicate with itself. It can rob you of mobility, sap your strength, and even cloud your mind. For Renée, a performer whose life revolved around her voice, her stage presence, and her physicality, it was like a cruel plot twist in a story she thought she knew. The diagnosis was a shock, but Renée Diggs was no ordinary woman. She was a fighter, femme, with a spirit that refused to bow. MS brought unpredictable symptoms: numbness, muscle weakness, and days when even getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. Yet, she kept it hidden from the public, refusing to let it dim her light on stage. Night after night, she poured her soul into performances, delivering that same fire that made Object of My Desire a global hit. Her bandmates marveled at her resilience, but only those closest to her, like Ernesto, knew the toll it was taking. Behind the scenes, she was navigating doctor's appointments, experimental treatments, and the emotional weight of a disease with no cure. Determined not to let MS define her, Renée leaned into her purpose. After Starpoint disbanded in 1990, she didn't retreat from the world. Instead, she channeled her strength into advocacy, founding the Renée Diggs Foundation for Multiple Sclerosis. The foundation wasn't just a name, it was a mission to raise awareness, fund research, and support others battling the same disease. She spoke at events, shared her story, and showed the world what it meant to live with MS without giving up. And through every step, Ernesto was there, her partner, her confidant, her biggest supporter. Together they faced the uncertainty of her illness with a quiet determination, proving that their love could withstand even the toughest blows. But fate wasn't done testing them. Tragedy strikes: the loss of Ernesto Phillips. By 2004, Renée and Ernesto had weathered more than most couples could imagine. They'd moved beyond Starpoint's heyday, focusing on Renée's solo career and their shared passion for music. Her album Oasis was a testament to their creative bond, a project that showcased her voice and his guitar in perfect harmony. Despite the challenges of her MS, they were building a life together, grounded in love and resilience. But then, out of nowhere, tragedy struck with a force that nothing could have prepared them for. In 2004, Ernesto Phillips, the man who'd been Renée's rock and Starpoint's musical genius, suffered a sudden and fatal stroke. He was gone in an instant, leaving behind a void that echoed through everyone who knew him. For Renée, the loss was cataclysmic. Ernesto wasn't just her longtime partner. No, he was her creative soulmate, the one who'd stood by her through the highs of fame and the lows of illness. They'd shared countless late nights in the studio, endless conversations about music, and a love that had grown stronger with every challenge. Losing him was like losing a piece of her soul. The grief was overwhelming. Those close to Renée said she carried the weight of Ernesto's death like a shadow, her heart breaking under the strain. She tried to keep going, pouring herself into her foundation and her music, but the spark that had once defined her seemed dimmer. Just 1 year later, in 2005, almost to the day of Ernesto's passing, Renée Diggs was gone too. The official cause was an underlying heart condition, a complication that had gone undetected. But those who knew her best, who saw the depth of her love for Ernesto, couldn't help but wonder if it was more than that. Some say it was her heart's condition. Heartbreak over losing the love of her life, that took its ultimate toll. Grief has a way of wearing down even the strongest spirits, and Renée had already fought so hard for so long. With her passing, Starpoint lost not just its voice, but its heart, leaving fans and loved ones to mourn two legends whose light went out too soon. Legacy, love, and what lives on. The story of Renée Diggs and Ernesto Phillips isn't just about loss. It's about a legacy that continues to resonate through the music they created and the lives they touched. Renée's voice wasn't just a sound. It was a feeling, a vibe that captured the spirit of 80s R&B. Hits like Object of My Desire, What You've Been Missing, He Wants My Body, and Till the End of Time still light up old school playlists, bringing Gun, taking us back to a time when the beat was everything. Their music wasn't just a moment, it was a movement, blending funk, soul, and pop into something that still feels fresh today. And we at I Love Old School Music are here to make sure that legacy never fades, fam. Beyond the music, Renée's fight lives on through the Renée Diggs Foundation for Multiple Sclerosis, a beacon of hope for those battling the disease she faced with unwavering courage. The foundation continues to raise awareness and fund research, carrying her mission forward. Her story is a testament to resilience, showing the world what it means to keep pushing through pain and uncertainty. And that love story with Ernesto? It's the kind of love that songs are written about. A quiet, powerful bond built on shared dreams, late-night studio sessions, and a commitment that held strong through fame, illness, and heartbreak. Their partnership wasn't just about music, it was about building something real in a world that often feels fleeting. Their impact goes beyond the charts. Fans still share stories of seeing Renée light up the stage, her voice carrying them through their own struggles. Ernesto's guitar riffs still echo in the hearts of those who felt the soul of Starpoint's sound. Their children may not walk the stage, but their music carries their spirit, inspiring new generations to groove, to feel, to fight. Scholarships and tributes in their names continue to support aspiring musicians, keeping their creative fire alive. Much love and respect to the late great Renée Diggs and Ernesto Phillips. May they both rest peacefully, knowing their music and their mission live on. So, what do you think made Renée and Ernesto's love story so enduring? Was it their shared passion for music, their strength through adversity, or something deeper? Drop a comment below if you remember Object of My Desire or any of Starpoint's classic joints. If this story hit you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Tap that notification bell so you never miss any of our old school gems. Thanks for watching.